Yo, what's up guys, it's Talon, and today we're going to be talking about how kinda to play a more slow-paced game of Wild Rift. I'm going to show you guys a pretty slow game for this specific quirky game and talk about why that's okay and sort of how we make get a lot of value despite not a lot of fighting. You're going to see very low fighting. I think the kills end up with like less than 30 kills in a game, which in like a almost over 20-minute game, roughly 20-minute game, that's a pretty small amount, you know, because people do fight quite a bit in solo queue. So that aside, we're going to focus on the lane phase first because the lane phase is kind of unrelated to the slow game in a lot of ways. It's more so just obviously laning depending on the specific matchup. So in this matchup, my Soraka, she decides to sit still and watch me as I last hit minions. You know, very kind of her. Hope she had a great time watching me do that. But basically, again, the main purpose of ADC in lane is just to get prio. And prio, again, for those that don't know, I repeat it a lot, but prio is basically having control over the wave or having the lane pushed. And what this allowed me to do is get a ward on their camp, and then also allowed me to kill their wards. So not only did I get 30 gold from killing their ward, which also gives me level 2 first, as you can see, but then I also get information that their jungler is pathing towards me because his Krugs have not yet been taken. We're at a minute, so clearly he started on his blue side, which means I could be ganked around 145 to 150. However, the jungler is a Lilia, so I'm not overly scared about being ganked. And then as it relates to trading here, nothing too complicated. I'm fine with taking an even health trade into a Varus, where we both get some auto attacks and some poke off, because I have Soraka, which means I have healing, whereas they have shielding. So when they have shielding and you have healing, an even health trade should be thought of as a winning trade. And the reason for that is because you can heal up the damage. You can't shield up damage. Shield is obviously only to block the damage as it's done. And then here I want to talk about, again, kind of a stupid fight my team does around the scuttle when it's already kind of lost. And so I end up staying and pushing the wave. And this is sort of the first thing you can see in terms of a slow game. So I don't over force or do anything silly. And you're going to see me punish them as well really nicely here. So I don't do anything silly here. I just continue to push the wave, get prio, miss CS because I suck. And then notice how I punish the Varus since the Varus was late and he decides to try to, after blowing his flash, continue to trade with me despite losing HP and losing his flash, and we end up punishing that. So instead of trying to like overforce something or again go and fight a clearly losing fight where my team was already hard losing at a bad fight at the scuttle, I decide instead to push the wave, play for my own advantage, and then I take advantage of the fact that Varus is coming back without flash and lower health than me to get that all-in kill on him then as well, which essentially negates the gold that he got from his kill. And of course, because I was able to push him on the wave, it's also beneficial in that way as well. So initially here, we can see my team, they're kind of little fight focused, like they force that early fight, but not the end of the world. Like I said, we're still able to get an okay outcome out of that. And then at this point, again, all we're doing is just simply trading with the enemy. At this point, I have double buffs, so I'm definitely happy to trade with them when I can, focus on getting prio, but here the wave is kind of already pushing, so I'm just basically, if Varus goes up for a last hit or something, I can try to poke him, but other than that, we just, again, focus on clearing the wave, getting prio. And then now I'm level 5 and they're level 4 because of the earlier advantage we got. So I want to take advantage of that and trade if I can before they're able to all level up. Like that's ideally what we would do. Which we can see again here. If we are able to find anything, we'll definitely want to go in. Honestly, could have been a bit more aggressive even, but you can see how when the minion got low there, I try walking up. The Janna does end up last hitting it. But here is again where we kind of start getting a bit of a trade going on. And because we have the level advantage, it's really good for us. We blow his exhaust and we're still able to hard win the trade. So again, I honestly should have been more aggressive here in hindsight, but overall you can still see playing around that level advantage, getting that additional poke, but not over forcing, not doing anything crazy. Just again, slow push, build up the wave, be aware of the fact that the enemy jungler can likely be here in about 15 to 20 seconds if he really wants to be. And that's actually what I remember myself saying on the stream specifically is like, jungle can be here soon. And the reason for that, again, is if they start on the opposite side of you, then they're going to gank you maybe around 150-ish. They'll go back to the side around 230 that they were originally starting on, and then they'll come back to your side again around 345. Because of spawn timers, that's just a rough kind of cooldown, or the rough timer. And then here we, again, just use our wave building up to slowly poke out the enemy. We get the kill on Janna, and then we go for the Varus. We end up getting the kill on him too, missing our alt flash, but we still get the kill on him. And so again, all we did there, we build up a slow push, play around those small level advantages, and eventually we crash the wave. I'm scared of Lilia, which is why I recall in this weird spot here. And then we're able to just, again, to slowly poke them out, whittle them down, and eventually dive them and get another 2 kills. So just even in the early game, you can just see the patience that we have. Again, I'm not trying to overforce things. I'm not trying to squeeze out advantages in situations where there's no advantage to be squeezed. But when there is, of course, something that I can get out of it, I'm just going to slowly push that lead and eventually get something done. I feel like I feel a lot of players, especially I find this in Baron lane when I lane against Master and Grandmaster Baron laners. Some of them actually like play better than me or as well as me in lane. They'll outplay me. They know their champion well. They know their matchups well. But then they get me half health and they're like 75% HP. They get greedy. They try to dive me under tower. They try to do something silly and they throw their whole lead and then they go like 0-10 after. Like, I really find that to be a very common issue, especially, again, like I said, with Baron laners, but really with everyone. They just try to overforce these leads. Again, I got my item now. I recall. I want to make sure I'm pressuring them on my item rather than stay up with no item, be slightly stronger, but not that much stronger, try to push my lead, over push, and then maybe die to a gank, or maybe, you know, die to 2v2 because, again, I don't have my cleanse yet. I don't have my flash yet. I could get ulted by Varus and they could all in me. Like, these types of things, this type of patience is definitely what you can see. So even in the early game, you saw a lot of the simple fundamentals in lane I always talk about, but you also saw, again, patience exemplified a bit in this lane. And then at this point, you're going to see, as the game develops, sort of what ends up making it sort of a slower game. Here, we just try to, again, get some poke on him. I knew I have cleanse now at that point, so if I really need, I can survive. And then even here, again, I still have my cleanse, so I'm not actually too scared. We can trade back on Lilia. Not panicking at all, because I know their only spells they have are Varus ult and Lilia. I dodged the Varus ult with my W. You saw how I kind of baited it out by poking him under tower. And then now, again, Lilia ults, we end up using our cleanse there. Again, we blow 2 flashes. I don't know why Lux flashed, but Lux flashes. So obviously, we blow the Varus flash there too. Play that fight slow, poke them out, use our advantage, and we're able to get control over the first objective and generally are in a good spot. But now, again, going more into the reason for why this is going to be a slower game and why it's okay to play a slower game, and also what I mean by that. So what I mean by playing a slower game, generally speaking, is just not fighting a bunch, playing more for gold, and then fighting around key timers like Barons, like key dragons, you know, like a Dragon Soul, for example, or Elder Dragon. But mostly playing around turrets, thinking of turrets as objectives, and just really using that as kind of a way to get super strong and then eventually fight, but again, having a lot of patience, which is, again, you're just going to see patience throughout this game. So instead of contesting Herald, for example, I go to the Dragon lane. Why do I do that? Because that's where I can get the most gold, that's where I can potentially pressure a turret, and that's where we have the lead. You can see my jungler and my team, they try to fight around that objective. They lose because I'm the one who's fed. And here again, I'm just squeezing out advantages. I'm going to get their camps, I'm going to play for the turret. The enemy are all rotating, including their Varus, and so I'm able to get a free turret here, as you're going to see. Then we recall, spend our gold, and again, we just have quite a big lead here. So Varus over rotates. My team tries to play around people who aren't strong. They lose that. Again, Varus loses a bunch. And just generally understanding that we just want to slowly build up our leads, push our advantages. And then when my jungler is, again, very inefficient, I'm just going to take his camps as well. So my jungler is forcing too many fights here, going too much on the other side of the map. I'm going to take his entire blue side because he's not been here for a long time. He's clearly not going to come here anytime soon with him fighting in the bottom lane like that. So I might as well squeeze as much gold out of the game as possible. Then I go mid lane. Now I see a mid wave. I get a mid wave. I go to the next mid wave. Then at this point, weirdly, Lilia's here invading me. So I decide to obviously go chase her down. And we get a free kill. And then we find ourselves right back in the top lane, getting the top wave. And then what do? We push another top wave. And then here, 3 of them are dead and 2 are showing bot. So I end up squeezing out a top lane turret out of this. Recalling. So again, I'm just squeezing a lot of gold out of these situations, not overforcing fights, focusing more on using the fact that the enemy rotate for fights, like at the Herald, to get a turret, focusing on the fact that my teammate's not farming camps, so I'm going to farm his camps, focusing on when my teammate in mid over-rotates so I can take his mid wave. Again, focusing on just getting small trade advantages and then building up a big wave, crashing it, and diving, rather than trying to dive too early or overforce. Understanding the enemy cooldown. So again, Lilia ult could be dangerous to me, Varus ult could be dangerous to me. So if I manage to use my second ability to dodge Varus ult, now I can be very aggressive because I can cleanse Lilia as soon as Lilia ults me. Just understanding these simple things, having this patience, again, you can see throughout this game, leads to quite a bit of success so far. And then now here, we're just setting up for the objective. So we push our wave out about 30 seconds before the objective. If we need to recall, we'll recall. I'm already on 2 items. I don't feel the need to recall just for an Executioner's Calling here. I'd rather focus more on getting prio on the mid lane. And then again, we're going to use this prio in order to hopefully have a successful objective fight without overforcing. Maybe I overforce things. I don't really remember specifically what happened. But again, you just see, we just play around our lane prio. I want to get a recall now that I have item, but I can't quite get it. You're going to see I realize, okay, I can't recall in case my team forces the fight. But again, just using these simple things, pushing the waves out, planning, preparing properly. And then you're going to see here even, I realize the fight's not in a great spot because 2 of my teammates are not here. and we don't have control over the dragon. So I'm telling my team to retreat and recall. I realize they're not doing it, so I do have to follow. But you're going to see how apprehensive I am to really make a large play here. I'm just sitting here auto-attacking, playing very patient, and then my teammate finds a really nice engage there, and so I do end up going in because he finds the Syndra engage, right? So when Syndra lands that stuff, I'll end up Wing forward and going in. But we weren't really looking for that. I wasn't actually interested in fighting there. It just so happened that, again, he found a nice engage, but we realized we lacked preparation. Despite the fact that we pushed out the waves, our team was not set up around dragon. We didn't have vision around dragon, and two of our teammates, again, weren't even there. So just understanding that, being patient, not trying to overforce a fight. And all that happened there was we just slowly poked them out. We find one pick on the Lyrigot, and we don't overforce or overchase too much from there. And now at this point, I'm fine with giving Varus this gold just because I understand that I'm too strong to not be on this side of the map. So I do have to kind of just sit here, again, focus on controlling the mid wave and then going into the objective. And I have to pray that my Garen eventually does go and cover that Varus. Again, because if I leave here, my team could easily force a fight and lose the game. Whereas if I lose 2 turrets to Varus, while it does suck and I don't want it to happen and it should never happen, I'm just going to accept that sometimes because of solo queue. You have to let those things happen now that we're around the Barons. So you saw how, again, the Varus was forcing fights around Herald and less important objectives. The time where I'm grouping and being with my team as an ADC is around these more important objectives. And what that leads to in the end is the Baron here, as you're going to see, because my team actually does a decent job of sort of sneaking it away. And then we're just able to get that little advantage. So I didn't love, again, the choice that my Garen didn't end up covering the top lane, but regardless, we're able to use the advantage around a more important objective. So I use my time after I farmed up, after I'm 3 items, after I'm really strong, to then, again, overgroup and not value gold as heavily, whereas Varus valued gold later on in the game instead of earlier on. And then again, at this point, we'll just farm up, get some mid gold, push towards bot, and then just find the whatever turrets we can take with our Baron. And that's really the main purpose here. Again, just poke them out, slowly whittle them down, and then just get this turret poked out. You can see my main focus really is just hitting this turret at the end of the day. I'm going to make sure that they're pressured off of it so they can't do anything. But at the end of the day, we're really just focused on the turret. I do end up walking too far, so I have to cleanse Urgot's Fear. That was a bit bad by me. But regardless, we have these lanes pushing, we have the prio, and so we're never really in too scary of a position. Because even if 1 or 2 of us do die, since we have that prio, it's going to take them a while to actually gain anything from killing us. Whereas if we kill them, we get pretty much everything. So out of this Baron, we're able to get 2 tier 2 turrets. Almost. Actually, we only get 1.5, I guess. But we get 1.5 tier 2 turrets, and we gave them a tier 2 turret to get the Baron. But we got the Baron. We got some kills out of it. Overall, a pretty decent outcome. And now at this point, we're on 4 items. Make sure to reset proper time before objective. You can see 45 seconds before the objective, roughly. We're recalling, so we can spend our gold. Then we push the waves out, and then we get control over the objective. A very straightforward process. This is how you play the game slowly. You just basic fundamentals, recall in the proper timers before objectives, then push waves before objectives, then get vision around objectives, and follow that simple order, and you're generally going to be in a good spot. And then you see here, all I'm doing is I'm one-shotting the objective because their jungler can't get in time. My champion DPS is dragon really well, and we get the free dragon soul out of it. No fighting necessary because of all this setup we did. The enemy just feel choked out, like they can't really do anything, to really, I guess, kill us, or actually just, they're pretty much trapped, right? Like, again, my team even there, I don't even like that we're looking too hard for this, but you can see how we have control of their entire jungle. So the enemy are walking into basically just a trap, whereas we, again, get complete free reign to just do whatever we want, keep the waves pushed, and constantly just, again, choke them out. That's essentially the gist of this. Poking out the Urgot, again, I'm not overforcing, not overchasing too hard, seeing if I can find something decent. Syndra decides she wants to be Faker. Little unfortunate there. But again, we have that cleanse for the Lilia, so we're not overly scared. And that Lilia gets baited into us, and we end up finding a decent little kill there. And again, nothing crazy. Just poke them out, push out the waves, and then if we find an angle to pick them, we look for that angle to pick them. It does get a bit dicey there, honestly overextended a bit. The reason that positioning was bad for me is because I was doing that without cleanse. Say I had cleanse, then I can position more aggressively. But you can see the mistake there really was, again, I'm positioning too far up when I have cleanse, and you can see how that can bite me in the butt, makes me lose my flash. And that's definitely what you have to be aware of when you're playing like this, is when you don't have those defensive spells, don't make the same mistake I did, and don't basically overextend when the enemy have certain cooldowns, like a Lux Q, or like Urgot engage, or Lilia ult, any of these types of things. I don't know what just happened to my throat. Either way, we end up forcing this. Bit of a weird situation here. We knew Lux ult has a chance of stealing, but we also know that there's a much more likely chance that we get this due to the fact that their jungle showed on the other side. So we then wait for the Lux ult goes out, and we're able to get this for free. Very weird situation. Again, I don't usually recommend doing Baron without your jungler, but this is just kind of a unique situation where my teammates notice a good opportunity to do it, and Corki melts through the Barons. So we decided we'll take that risk because, again, the only way we'd ever lose that is if Lux ults it, and we can just hold our damage until Lux ults. And luckily, she Lux ulted early. I said L a lot of different L words there, kind of made my mind explode. And then here I look for the pick onto the Lux, and again at this point pretty much like what I'm doing with Corki is I'm looking for those sort of one-shot angles or to just hit frontline. One of those two things. If I'm able to W forward and get a one-shot, because my champion does literally like 3-shot people at this point, then I'll do that. Otherwise, again, we just hit the front line and we slowly push the waves, make sure we have constant prio, and there's nothing too complicated from there. Again, 5-0-1 10-10 game in 18 minutes, and yet despite it being a 10-10 game, I don't think we've ever really lost control of the game. It's always kind of felt like we're in control. We've always had a decent situation, and again, even though my team has kind of overforced some fights, they haven't been super greedy or gotten caught out in super silly ways, and we've just gotten a bunch of gold on ourselves, farmed really well, and that constant threat of my damage means they can't walk that far into me. Like, say the enemy did, and did I just flash? No, I didn't flash. That looked like I flashed for some reason. But say that the enemy were overforcing and fighting a bunch, they would just die to me because I'm so fed. Instead, they play like this. They play scared and respectful, and they just get slowly bled out. So they don't really have a great way to win either way, just due to everything that's gone on here. And again, we're just looking for these kind of pick angles. We blow the Urgot flash. You can see I'm constantly looking for kind of that one shot. We end up finding that big burst damage onto the, the Lilia there. And once again, we just slowly push out these waves. Like, really slow game. Honestly, very rare that you see one of these types of games. I would definitely say more of my games are the just fight 24/7. My teammates fight, and I farm and then fight later. Like, this game, again, a lot smoother, and that's why I thought it was an interesting one to share. I know I've kind of been reiterating the same points, but that's sort of the point of these videos, is just to talk about the same specific topics, which in this case, again, is how to kind of play a slow game. And really the main things to keep track of is just focus on the turrets, focus on the objectives, focus on the gold, more than you focus on these random fights. And then when you do want to value the fights are going to be around those key objectives like the Baron, like the Elder, and make sure before those objectives you're setting up 45 seconds beforehand by taking a recall, roughly 45, obviously sometimes 30, sometimes 60. Buy your items, go back to lane, push out the waves, then use that push in the waves to go get vision, use that vision to just choke the enemy out and get a free objective. And essentially it's that simple. Obviously it's not always that simple when your teammates randomly run it down and die for no reason, and I know that happens, but of course, you can't control everything your teammates do, but you can steer them in the right direction, and taking these basic steps means that you're more likely to have these smoother games, and at least you have an idea of what to do when you can do it. And then obviously in some opportunities when your team just fights and fights, you have to go with them. For example, that situation where I wanted to recall for Mortal Reminder and give up the dragon, I knew I had to go fight the dragon just because my team was going to fight and die if I didn't show up there. And so sometimes you also have to realize when your presence is more important than buying an item or actually making the correct reset that you would do in, say, like a pro game or if you were coordinated with teammates. So there's also that important distinction to make, to understand that because it is solo queue, you have to sometimes make the incorrect decision. But obviously, in order to make the incorrect decision intentionally, you have to know what the correct decision is and then understand when deviation from that choice actually makes sense and why it makes sense. So again, it's going to make sense in situations when you think your team is very, very likely to force a fight randomly. Oftentimes objectives are where they might force those random fights, especially random dragons. People so overforce random dragons. And in some situations, if they're forcing a dragon you don't think they should, but you think there's still a decent chance of winning that objective fight, then you can do that. And you can see here how despite having Elder, we knew we couldn't really break open the Nexus. And so we decided to simply focus on getting the Baron. Again, not overforcing, not trying to just fight them just because we have Elder a bunch. Just choking them out, pushing out the waves, and then using the fact that those waves are pushed to get Baron, and we finally bleed them out and use the Baron waves even here to just poke out the Nexus. I'm not ever overforcing, not walking forward, not letting them do anything stupid, slowly poking out Varus, and then using the fact that he's poked out to hit the Nexus for free. So that was basically the gist of this video. At this point, we're at 98 marks once the stream ended. So 2 marks from Sovereign on my ADC account. Hopefully we're able to get that today when I stream, which would be yesterday for you guys at this point by the time you see this video. So I guess you could check my stream and see if that happened or if I tilted off the face of the earth, because that happens sometimes as well. But either way, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one.